Even if a woman is able to save the day, or if the family goes under, who are they going to feel empathy for? The woman.
The woman, for sure.
Who are they going to despise and look down on? The fault is with the man. Whether you know how to lead or not, you're in the clear. They're going to be looking at us. This is Caesar Walker, the cool, calm, collected one.
And I'm Ronnie Gatry, the emotional one.
And we are the Tipping Point Podcast, your source for the black male's perspective.
Tipping Point Podcast.
You know, I think there's a negative stigma around male leadership. I've talked about how you've had first and second wave feminism and what those was about. With new age feminism, whether it's third or fourth wave feminism, it's been more about women being oppressed. And that we're in a patriarchy, and men are, regardless of race, regardless of social class, with an education, regardless, we're beneficiaries of the patriarchy. Even though there's so much data and research that blows that out of the water. The fact that there's more prisons built for men, men serve longer sentences, tougher penalties for committing the same crimes as, I mean, we can go on and on about how that's not really the case.
Yeah.
But what's being ingrained in a lot of women's mind now coming up is that because of the patriarchy and because men benefit from it, women are oppressed under this structure. What does that do to the psyche of women who actually subscribe to that? And what is their attitude towards male leadership as it pertains to that belief?
Yeah, I think it's like we've talked about a while ago, you know, the submission term comes in. And as we've seen when we drop content dealing with submission, some women don't always take that well.
Get triggered.
Yeah. So without going too far back into that, I can see how the thought of the role of male leadership could easily bleed over to submission and how it could trigger some women.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah. We're going to blame society here. Society's easy to blame. But society has built this narrative that submission means you just do what I say and you don't have a voice, you don't have any say so.
It's bondage.
Yeah. So what society doesn't talk about enough is at least the way you and I are wired in terms of how we view marriage with our wives. Like, the woman is still a vital piece to that puzzle. But kind of like you and I talked about, where it's different is men ultimately have that responsibility.
Right.
Like, one of the things I'd say within the past 4 years for me that I've been very attentive to and tuned into is the fact that I'm going to be held responsible for what I did, not only as a husband, but as a father. Like, dude, I'm taking that so much more seriously than I ever have. So when you think about that, when you think about men having to deal with that, gosh, the plea for me at least is from a woman, like, understand that. And it's fine. If that's not something you want to fall under, cool. You know what I'm saying? Go download some more masculine software. But it also, going back to what Black said about servant leadership, like, it troubles me because if a woman is going to have that mentality about male leadership, you don't even really give me the opportunity to serve you in a leadership capacity. If you've got that mindset of, oh, he just wants me to do what he says, and I don't have a voice, it's unfair. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's
very limiting.
It's very limiting. I think it's very worthy of conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you hear it all. Like, one of the responses that, you know, I had time this week. I don't know where the time came from, but I was reading comments and you hear such bad faith arguments that come from women because of their indoctrination. and they'll hear men leading, and one woman, like, and I read one of the comments to you Black, it almost sounded as though, oh, he's got to lead everything. Like, I got to take a step back behind, even though we never explained on the clip what we meant by it. It was assumed that the woman would be restricted and constrained in some way. She wouldn't be really free to be herself, so to speak. And so I'm just like, where is this coming from? You say society for sure, but to be specific, I just think a lot of it is just this ideology that we're getting from feminism. But I think a lot of it is coming from people's formative years, whether it's a father figure who disappointed them or just whatever the case may be, relationships that went sour, whatever the case may be. And I think when we are reliant upon our experiences, even though they do form and shape our beliefs, sometimes it's not necessarily representative of what's really happening in society and in the world. Because we've seen people who are in leadership who are effective leaders, they're not dictators. They're not dictators at all.
They're two different things.
Two different things. That is a form of leadership, but that's not successful. So if we're talking about building successful families and being successful in our lives, we have to understand that we're in a day and age where if I'm going to be a leader, I have to demonstrate the ability to connect with those who are following me. Right? So if the woman is a critical part of the family, if she's a critical part of the relationship, that means she has autonomy. That means she has a voice. That means she has something to add. She has something to bring. She's a helpmeet. She can't help if she's constrained the whole time, right? But again, we have to combat this narrative that male leadership is this heavy, burdensome thing for women. And I think it's important for women to understand why it's important for men to lead. And you pretty much hit on it. The buck stops with us. And one of the things I was going to share with this woman was that, listen, because her thing was, if the woman was able to lead, then, and I was like, that's fine if she's able to lead. But see, even if a woman is able to save the day, or if the family goes under, who are they going to feel empathy for? Me or the woman? The woman.
The woman, for sure.
Who are they going to despise and look down on?
And where would the fault be?
The fault is with the man. Whether you know how to lead or not, you're in the clear. They're going to be looking at us, and they have every right to look at us.